Hey everyone, and welcome back to Satisfactory News. Today, Satisfactory Update 1.2 finally dropped on the experimental branch of the game. Before I get into showing all of the new features, I'll quickly go through what experimental means for anyone who hasn't been through this before. But if you do already know all of this, just use the chapters down below to skip ahead to the content. Experimental is a less stable branch of Satisfactory that is used for testing new features. By using it, you're basically a beta tester and you might run into crashes and bugs. If you do encounter bugs, report them on questions.satisfactorygame.com. It's not completely guaranteed that the final release of 1.2 will look exactly the same as it does in experimental, as this is just a large test and features might change. And because it is for testing, you shouldn't expect the full release of 1.2 for several months. The team will have a lot of work ahead of them. To access the update, you'll need to be playing on PC. It is not available on console. On Steam, right-click on the game, click Properties, then Game Versions and Betas, then select Experimental. On Epic, it's a separate game that you'll need to install. Before you play the game and load your save, be sure to back up your save files by finding the save location and copying it somewhere else. I'll put the default path on the video here and in the description down below. Okay, now let's get into the features. Weather. For those who were playing back in early access, you'll remember rain being in the game pretty briefly. Well, now it's back, along with other weather options. The presets are default, dry, wet, the Great Massage 2 ABB, clear, raining kittens and puppies, and extreme. Each of these comes with its own description in the menu, so you can adjust it to whatever sounds the most enjoyable to you. Default does not come with a description, but I'm pretty sure that just means that weather is off. The rain looks great and comes with a whole system that makes it look and sound good, and it interacts with all of your buildables. This should add some more enjoyable atmosphere to your gameplay if you're into that. Controller updates. The developers have received a ton of feedback about the controller implementation on both PC and console, and some of that feedback is making its way into this update. The major thing is that you can now easily switch between controller and mouse and keyboard without having to manually change a setting. And that's with a new option called Dynamic Gamepad Swap, which is on by default. Now, whenever you press a button on either input, it will automatically switch, which is probably what you're used to in most other games. You can also now reassign your controller bindings, which is a great basic feature that it's nice to see added. And one last note on controller is that consoles will be able to use keyboard and mouse in 1.2, however, since the experimental update isn't on consoles, that isn't in this version of the update on PC, but the developers have said in the past that 1.2 will have console keyboard and mouse support. Vehicle paths. A couple weeks ago, I made a video about my theories for how vehicle pathing would be improved in 1.2. And while I was close, I kind of danced around what the reality was going to be, I was not totally correct with any of my guesses. Creating a vehicle path now functions a lot like building train tracks. So, in the build menu, you'll see a path tool for each vehicle. They're separated like this because each one is customized to account for the turning radius of that vehicle. However, you can always use the universal path tool if you want to make a route without committing to a vehicle. I assume that this universal path uses the most extreme restrictions, so probably of the truck. Building a vehicle route should feel pretty familiar to building a train route. You place each section just like a train track, and if you make a mistake, you can bring up the dismantle tool and delete a section. When you back out of the build gun, the path will disappear, but it actually still exists even if it is not complete. It's just invisible if you're not using the build gun. You can place truck stations directly on a path and they snap very nicely, or build a path alongside a station where it will snap to it. Then you can build a vehicle onto the path just like building a train. You can also build a vehicle elsewhere and drive it onto the path, but if it's not near an existing path, then you won't be able to see any stations and you won't be able to assign it a route or anything like that. This is a downside compared to the old system where you could select an existing route and the truck would go to it, but that's a minor thing. When you get inside a vehicle, you'll see that the menu is a little different. You'll be able to access the inventory, you'll be able to access the workbench if you're on the tractor, and you'll be able to access pathing. When a vehicle is properly attached to a path, you'll be able to see the truck stations that are also properly attached to that path. If you don't see your truck station, that's because it's probably not attached in a valid way. You'll be able to select these and make a route exactly like you would with train stations on a train route. So make sure to name your stations so that they make sense. Overall, this means that creating truck routes is a little less flexible. However, they should also just work better, which is a fine trade-off. Driving physics have been improved, not only for driving around normally, but also on automated vehicles. This means they basically follow the path like a train track, so you're not going to see some of the crazy issues that we used to see. They're not going to launch off of things, they're not going to try to follow weird paths that shouldn't work, and they'll even stop when detecting another vehicle in a crossing. Be careful with this though. I've pretty easily created a scenario with crossings in which some of the trucks in the network could literally never move because they always detected that another truck was in a crossing. So pay attention to the colors when working in tight spaces. Speaking of colors, you can change those in the user interface settings if you don't like the defaults. For better or for worse, you can only build a path on smooth surfaces. And even removing a platform will invalidate an existing path if the truck won't be able to go on it. I also tested whether building something in an existing truck path works, and it does not. If a buildable would interrupt a truck route, it does not let you build it, giving you a surface uneven error. If you have old truck routes built with the old system, they will still work, but you can't edit them. You can delete them, however, if you'd like to replace them with the new routes. And with the truck physics changes, some of your old routes might not work if they relied on jumping over gaps or other weird physics things. As far as building these routes, you can switch between normal build mode and straight mode, which will be nice when building on long highways, and you can use the rotate controls to adjust the curve. Fluid truck and station. The fluid truck and fluid station were teased a while ago, and now they're here. With a capacity of 3,200 meters cubed, they hold double what the fluid train car does, making that option even less appealing than it already was. These are unlocked in Tier 5 as part of Logistics Mark IV, which is where you already unlock trucks. They function just like regular trucks, except with fluids. Game modes. Advanced game settings has been renamed Creative Mode, which definitely fits better. To differentiate from Creative Mode, new game modes have been added. Unlike Creative Mode, these game modes do not disable achievements. You access these settings when creating a new game, and they are as follows. Cost multipliers, including space elevator deliverable cost, recipe parts cost, and power consumption. World randomization, including resource nodes, resource node purity, and the ability to see and share your world seed. These settings will allow players to make the game easier or harder according to their preferences while keeping most of the core gameplay and achievements intact. Photo mode. Photo mode is getting some minor updates as well, including a new color filter, a new effect filter, and selfie mode. This mode lets you use a selfie-style camera and a set of poses just for this mode, along with all the other settings from the regular photo mode. And as they've teased a couple times, you can walk around in selfie mode, which is pretty fun. Spawn.
SAM-based portable waste network unlocked.
Spawn, or the respawn toilet as we're going to be calling it, is not something that was on my bingo card for this update. But it makes total sense as a game mechanic and solves a pain point that is uncommon, but annoying when you run into it. These toilets function like a bed in Minecraft, letting you choose the toilet as your respawn location by washing your hands in it. So if you want to go explore a scary cave, you can build a toilet first, then explore without fear. Well, with less fear. You can unlock this in the MAM under the Alien Technology branch, but unfortunately it does use one of your precious Mercer spheres to unlock it. Once you've built it, wash your hands, and then when you die, you'll respawn at it. If you deconstruct the spawn, you'll just respawn at the hub as normal when you die. Daisy chaining power. Another popular mod becomes a feature in the form of daisy chaining power lines. This means that instead of connecting every building to a power pole, you can connect buildings to each other to power them. You can unlock this in the Caterium branch of the MAM, and I think most everyone will be a fan of this change as it will significantly clean up factories and make it easier to build them. New buildables. There are a couple new buildables. The first one is a pipeline T-junction, which is a small but fantastic addition that will simply look better than the normal pipeline junction in so many locations, and it's unlocked with coal power where junctions are normally unlocked. There is also a new item in the beam expansion pack in the Awesome Shop, the crossbeam. If you've already unlocked this expansion pack, then you'll have it already. Quality of life. As always, the catch-all quality of life section of the patch notes often has some of the coolest updates that you'll interact with every time you play, and that is no different here. First off, there is now a real pause menu. This is enabled by default and will simply pause the game when you press the escape key. This is only available in single player and will not work in multiplayer. Within the accessibility settings, I also noticed a new experimental setting for directional subtitles, which would display actions as subtitles and have a direction associated with them. A great feature for players who are hard of hearing. Perhaps most excitingly of all, signs can finally be zooped. This is huge for those of us who use them as lights and want to build dozens or hundreds of them at a time. So that's it for Satisfactory 1.2. I'm not going to say it's the most massive update in the world, but I think all of these new features generally make the game a lot more enjoyable, maximizing fun while reducing tedium. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited about and what hidden secrets you found while playing. Personally, I'm most excited about the new truck routes. I love trucks, but they're always a little janky and annoying to work with, so I'm excited to start building a superhighway. Subscribe if you liked the video, and I will see you in the next one.